you guys for letting me interview you guys. I am so excited that we finally got this figured out. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Us too. Yeah. Sorry we've been so busy. I've been
Mixed up
traveling
with
around and
live
yeah.
stream. So for the first question, did you guys ever think Northern Town Parodies would get this popular?
I can't say we did. Our first show, actually, we didn't even record it, and it's not on our YouTube at all. We did a parody of Stephen King's It after the movie came out, and people in our town really liked it, so we started recording them and putting them on YouTube for fun. And then randomly, one of our TikToks that we put on just started getting an insane amount of likes and views, and that was very surprising for us. But I mean, it's been a good surprise. Like, we've been so happy to see how this has affected people and how much people enjoy it.
That's really cool. Who had the idea to start Northern Town Parodies, and what made them come up with that idea?
We kind of both did. It was over like Thanksgiving break, because I was in college at the time, but Nina wasn't yet, and I was home, and we were talking about like wanting to do this parody show of It, and we were like, well, we can just do it. And then we were like, yeah, totally, we can just like do it. Originally it was a one-off thing, but then when we decided we were going to do more because people really liked it, we kind of were like, okay, well, we should probably get a name for this and a company type situation going on.
That's cool. What has been your favorite parody to do and why?
Ooh. I mean, I feel like obviously this last one was great to do in Chicago with the set and the costumes, because all of our other shows have been either outside or we did do one in a theater before this one, Scooby-Doo, which is my second favorite one. I feel like Scooby-Doo is when Jack and I really figured out how to write a script for a parody. And it was fun because it was a super tight cast and a very ensemble show. So all of us were working together on that one.
That was a good one, yeah.
Yeah, I think my favorite was this past one, but I really, really loved getting to WandaVision because that one was really different from what we had done before, and it was kind of fun. That's back when we were operating on a much tighter, smaller scale, so it was really cool to see everyone push how much we could do on such a limited budget, because we really didn't have many resources for that show, but we still pulled off some really cool things, I think.
Yeah, wasn't it that coffee house, and then I forgot the numbers, but yeah.
Yeah, Cafe 476, that is where we started. I had a summer job there, and they were like, you have any community groups that are looking for a space to have events? And I said, okay, this is going to sound crazy, but bear with me here. I'll explain to you what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. And then were you guys interested in theater before you started Northern Town Parodies?
Yeah. We can.
Yeah, we met doing what was our first show that we did? Technically Seussical. Yeah, we did but we didn't actually like meet each other until we were doing, I think, Grease.
Yeah.
In our high school that we were both in. And so we had done theater together for several years. Nina choreographed a production of Spring Awakening that I co-directed back in 2019. So we've always kind of been working together. So we did a lot of like normal theater before moving into the parody stuff.
Yeah, I started in elementary school. I don't remember my exact how old I was, but I always just had a love for it, and this was just the next step.
Yeah, Seussical's a good one.
Yeah, that was.
I think I was 13 when I did Seussical.
I was like 14, 15.
Yeah.
So you were in elementary school when you started theater?
Yeah. For me, I got into it originally when I was part of a church, and we did like Christmas plays every year. And so I did all of those. And then one year I was Mary, and I dropped the plastic baby that was supposed to be Jesus. So I stopped doing the plays after that one. But after that, like as soon as I could do actual shows in our town, the theater program doesn't really start until you're in middle school, and then you can do stage shows at the school and everything. So that's when I started doing full productions.
Yeah, that's really cool. Did you guys take any inspiration from anyone while creating Northern Town Parodies?
We definitely looked at other theater groups to see how they started and what our next step was, because we threw ourselves into it and then realized we had no idea what we were doing. I don't know if there's any specific examples.
Yeah, because we get compared to Star Kid a lot, which is inevitable because we're both parody musical companies. We also both happen to come from U of M students.
Yeah.
But really, I think the way we handle humor and the way we did our shows, especially initially with the jukebox music, was a very different vibe from theirs. But definitely,
Star Kid wrote their own music at first.
Yeah.
How to.
And I think, I definitely like look up to them as an inspiration now because of how far they were able to take it, and the fact that they're still doing it and making a whole life out of it. But I don't know if when we had the idea, I don't think they necessarily crossed our minds because it felt like a very different thing.
And then where did the title Northern Town Parodies come from?
So in the show that I talked about earlier, we performed this song at the beginning called Life in a Northern Town. And also we're from Michigan, which I guess is kind of north.
Yeah.
So we called ourselves Northern Town because we didn't want to forget that first show that we did. That was inside a coffee shop. It was super small, but it was really magical and it was the start of something really amazing. So we didn't want to forget that, and we didn't want to forget where our roots are, because at the end of the day, we all live in this area, and that's how we all met each other.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you guys plan on doing any more shows plus like later on with Northern Town Parodies?
Yes.
Yeah.
We are actually in meetings right now, Jack and I, to talk about our season for the next year or so.
Oh, so you're starting to plan like not even like a whole month after Peter Johnson closed.
Yeah, there's been some things happening for a little bit now, getting ready for the next like calendar year.
When we were on the train ride home from Chicago, Jack and I officially stared pre-production meetings for our next show, which we'll hopefully be announcing soon.
Yeah.
And that's not, is it going to also be in Michigan?
Yes. So our next show we only are confirmed for the location of our next show, which will take place in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how has your experience been throughout the journey with Northern Town Parodies?
I would say it has been crazy. I've definitely learned so much. When we started Northern Town Parodies, I was a sophomore in high school. That was how old I was when we did our first show. I was just finishing my senior year when we did the first Percy Jackson. So I've really not grown up with it, but a large part of my life has been this company. So it has been really fun to see how it has grown. I feel like I'm answering this question very poorly right now, but Jack, do you have anything?
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a really weird, because I was, I think, freshman in college when we started. Yeah, if you were a sophomore, I was a freshman. And then we did it before COVID, and then we had to take a break from doing our shows until we did Percy Jackson, which was originally supposed to happen so much sooner than it actually did. So it was cool to like gain some knowledge and then come back into it, because I feel like we had a better idea of how to operate going forward. And especially this last year, I think has really like, from the moment that the initial Percy Jackson parody started blowing up on YouTube to Peter Johnson now, I can't believe how much we've done and how much has changed with how our company functions in only a year. It doesn't feel like we're the same group of people, but it's been really cool.
And then what is the process of making a new parody?
So Jack and I usually start with an idea of some type of title that we want to have our own spin on. We always parody things that Jack and I personally enjoy. That's a big thing. Like, I wouldn't take a movie that I hated and be like, let's turn this into a parody musical and really tear it apart. because I don't think that's where the best parodies start. I think the best parodies start with a genuine love for the material, and then taking a step back and we examine, okay, we love this so much, but where are some things where it might have fallen a little bit, and how can we correct those and help people take a new look at it while also still engaging in that love for the media. So acknowledging how great it is, but also where it could do better on a social justice scale. So from there, Jack and I put out some feelers to people who are in our company who we think might be good for it. And we get started on the script. Then we take it into the rehearsal process, which our rehearsal processes are usually, they've been anywhere from a week long for Scooby-Doo to, I think it was 2 months for WandaVision.
You had a week for Scooby-Doo?
Yeah,
Yes.
we had 8 total rehearsals for Scooby-Doo.
Oh, wow.
WandaVision, we technically started like our pre-production process immediately after the first Percy ended, but like we were only in actual rehearsals for about a month, but there was so much going on leading up to it to like make all of that happen that it was all kind of blended together.
Yeah, so during rehearsals, we rehearsed for a couple hours, 2 to 3. And then after that, a couple times a week, we'll have production meetings for 2 hours after those rehearsals where we'll go over set build plans and how everything is going rehearsal wise. Jack, do you want to continue?
Yeah, and especially like looking at Peter Johnson specifically, we were also writing original music this time, which was happening kind of towards the end, really close to our rehearsal process and through the beginnings of the rehearsal process, because we were rewriting things, changing things to fit for our new cast members' voices and stuff like that. So it was working with Josh and Jackson, who were huge members of the music team, to kind of like rework those lyrics, rework the songs into the right keys for people and stuff like that. And also we all gather together and we all contribute to our tech process of building the set and things like that. And then typically, Peter Johnson was our longest tech period. We had a week in the space before we opened, which was really unusual for us because with Scooby-Doo, we got into that theater the day of the show. And with WandaVision and with original Percy Jackson, we were outside and we got to run through WandaVision there. We got to have one night of tech, but we were doing tech in our outdoor rehearsal spaces for Percy and WandaVision the whole week leading up, but not actually in the space yet.
Our shows operate on a workshop process. So that's something that we implemented with Peter Johnson, where we start off with a week or so where everyone just sits and we read the script together. And then we get the actors' feedback on things that they think are working and things that they would like to add to the script or change. So we try to get a communal workspace going. Everybody is chipping in everywhere. We don't have a team that builds our sets. It's all the actors and the production team. We all work together to build that. And we all put in a lot of hours outside of rehearsal to make sure that like the nitty gritty work gets done as well.
That makes sense. Yeah. And then what do you like about doing parodies rather than doing regular musicals, plays, theater?
Specifically with Peter Johnson, I really liked that we got to perform something that was entirely new. I loved like having all new music and all new material to work with. I also really like being able to take something that, we love, but to look at it from a comedic lens and to acknowledge that there are some kind of ridiculous things that happen in the Percy Jackson book series, but we still love it anyways. And it can be fun and funny to point out those things like Luke and Annabeth's storyline and stuff like that, and to heighten it and make it a lot more dramatic than it actually is, to kind of point out the problem in it or just how ridiculous this really is. And I think that's really fun to do.
Yeah. My favorite part, I've always been a huge nerd. When I was younger, and now, I was very involved with fandom spaces, and now it's in a different way with Northern Town Parodies. So it is so fun to get to bring the characters and the story to life with our own take on it. It's really fun to just get to play these characters and see how people react to those characters. I'm also I'm very interested in genres and television and book series, so it's fun to examine those tropes and see how we can bring them into our scripts as well in a more comedic light.
And that's cool. And then, what was your favorite song from the Peter Johnson parody that you either written or that another cast member has written, and why?
My favorite song that I sang and performed was Achilles Heel. I love doing all of the lifts and stuff for that. Josh and I worked very hard on our fight choreography, so it was fun to get to do that. And then that I'm gonna give two. I'm gonna say my favorite and then someone else's. But my second favorite was Swallow You Whole, because I'm sure you noticed, but Jack and I don't get many off stage breaks. So it was awesome to be off stage for a couple minutes. And also Avery is such a wonderful vocalist.
Oh my God.
And the lyrics to that song are so funny. Josh came to us and said, because Kronos' song was a very difficult song for us to come up with an idea for. We knew what we wanted it to be called, and that was it. And one night Josh came to us and he said, okay, so what if Kronos' song was a blues number? And we were like, I don't see it, but play with it and then bring it back to us. And he brought us back Swallow You Whole. And I think it is one of the funniest songs in the show if you listen to the lyrics. So
And then the way Jackson and Josh worked together, and they took that song, which was originally a solo, and added all of those like little backup vocals that just make it so much fun. Like, it was great before those, and then once we got those in about the week before we opened in Chicago, it made it even better.
Yeah.
But my favorite song to perform was also Achilles Heel. I have a special like connection to that one too, because that was one of like my favorite songs that I worked on the lyrics for with Josh. I really liked how it turned out. That and Don't Look Now, which is listening to Avery sing is just out of this world, but I really liked. That's when I really felt comfortable, because this was my first time writing lyrics for a show, like writing them. And there's a lot of Easter eggs and inspiration pulled from Taylor Swift's Speak Now album in it that I don't think people have noticed yet, but I'm really excited for them to notice, because I pulled a lot of like little references to her in there and to other like iconic breakup songs that are kind of just sprinkled throughout the song that I think are really fun and help make, because it really is supposed to be a kind of a parody of that genre of song. So I really liked how that turned out, and the way Avery sings it is just amazing.
And then, do you have any advice for anyone who wants to write a parody?
I think this applies to anyone who wants to write anything, but my advice to someone is just do it. I know that sounds like duh, obviously just do it, but Jack and I had this epiphany when we were talking about creating our first show, where we were like, man, I wish someone would make this. This would be such a good show. And then we're like, there's nothing holding us back from just doing this ourselves. And our first show had a budget of as cheap as possible. I think Jack and I both put like $50 into it.
Yeah, we pulled like $20-$30 out of my couch, and we were like, wow, we can get something for the show. So there was no money. And then, yeah, I agree. I would say just like the hardest thing about writing, I think, is to start doing it. And once you start doing it and you start getting those ideas down on paper, even if they're bad, you at least have somewhere to go from, as opposed to just something floating around in your head. So I think that's really important, and probably the best way to get going.
It seems very hard to take that first step, but if you have an end goal in mind and you have the drive and the ambition to get there, the sky's the limit. Like, Jack and I have done this with a team of very amazing people who had our back, who have joined us as we've continued. And I think that, you know, people who work hard find other people who work hard. Mm-hmm. And, you know, maybe someday you'll have a show in Chicago, and maybe someday we'll have something more.
Yeah. It's really, I think the coolest thing about the writing process is like because once you get going, those ideas do kind of just appear. Like Kronos' song being a blues number and stuff. Like, we wouldn't have made a lot of the discoveries that we did with this show. We didn't just jump into this, because this was our first time writing a score. It was nearly everyone involved in the songwriting process, with the exception of Jackson, Carissa and Jamie, who weren't probably like Carissa and Jamie contributed a few songs each, but the bulk of the score was written by mostly Josh and I and Jackson, and really like it was our first time doing anything like that, and it was really scary. But once we jumped in and got the first thing done, they all started to kind of roll out of that.
That's really cool. And then those are all my questions for the interview. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. It was great to talk to you again.